Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely unravel the complex legal mechanics of American campaign finance. Now, I know terms like campaign finance might sound a little dry at first glance, but trust me on this one, we are going to track a literal modern mystery that reveals exactly how billions of dollars flow right beneath the surface of our political system. We're going to dive into how the rules were built, how they were broken, and ultimately how they were legally rewritten.
To really see how this works in practice, let's kick things off with a massive number. In October 2024, right before the US presidential election, a group calling itself the RBG PAC spent roughly $20 million. That money went entirely into digital media. Think your standard Facebook and Instagram ads, specifically targeting women under 44 in swing states like Pennsylvania and Michigan, trying to convince them to support Donald Trump.
Now, by law, these ads have to disclose who paid for them, right? And they did. They said, paid for by RGB PAC. But when you actually looked at the official disclosure paperwork filed before the election, it showed exactly $0 in receipts. Literally, zero. It was a complete legal black box. I mean, how does a group with zero reported dollars somehow spend $20 million on ads? If you were a voter trying to figure out who was actually funding this message in October, the trail went completely cold.
And this, right here, brilliantly illustrates a massive loophole in the system. Because federal regulations state that any funds received after mid-October don't actually have to be disclosed until December, which is a full month after the election is over. The public was just left in the dark. It wasn't until December that the sole donor was finally revealed, and it was the Elon Musk Revocable Trust. This is basically a personal legal entity where much of Musk's wealth sits. So one individual legally funneled $20 million into a highly targeted campaign, and no one knew it was him until the voting was entirely finished. So the absolute crucial question here is, how on earth is this legal? How can one individual pour hundreds of millions of dollars into an election anonymously?
Section 1. Narrowing the money pipes.
To really understand this, we have to rewind the clock all the way back to the 1970s. In 1971, a corporate lawyer named Lewis Powell wrote a memo urging American businesses to aggressively use their political power. But just a year later, the Watergate scandal broke. And it wasn't just a physical break-in. It exposed this massive system of illegal, secret campaign cash flowing directly from major corporations into the Nixon campaign. Public trust absolutely plummeted. So in response, by 1974, Congress decided to clean house. They created the Federal Election Commission, or FEC, to make all political money transparent and, most importantly, strictly limited. Basically, the pipes for political money were made incredibly narrow.
Section 2. Giving versus spending.
But of course, anytime you create a strict new system, you're going to face pushback. Almost immediately, wealthy donors, lawmakers, and free speech advocates sued the government. They argued that these strict financial limits effectively censored their ability to express their political views. Their argument was essentially, in America, if you limit how much money someone can spend to publish their thoughts, you are directly violating the First Amendment. Well, this legal battle went all the way to the Supreme Court, which created a really crucial legal fulcrum that still governs us today. The court decided there is a fundamental difference between giving and spending. Giving money directly to a candidate, that can be restricted because it poses a risk of quid pro quo corruption, buying favors. But spending your own money independently to talk about a candidate, the court ruled that as protected free speech, and it absolutely cannot be limited.
Now, this distinction set the stage for a very creative loophole in the 1990s. Political parties and corporations realized they could raise and spend unlimited money on television ads as long as they didn't explicitly use what lawyers actually call the magic words. As long as an ad didn't explicitly say vote for or vote against a specific candidate, it was classified as an issue ad, not a campaign ad. So unlimited corporate money began flooding right back into politics under the guise of issue awareness.
Section 3. Citizens United changes everything.
Congress actually tried to close these loopholes in 2002. They really wanted to shut down this unlimited shadow spending. But that cleanup effort eventually sparked another massive legal battle. Fast forward to 2007, a nonprofit group intentionally broke these new rules by producing an hour-and-a-half-long, highly critical documentary about Hillary Clinton right smack in the middle of election season. When the government tried to step in and stop it, the group sued. That group was called Citizens United, and their lawsuit led to one of the most consequential Supreme Court decisions in modern American history in 2010. The court ruled that the government prohibiting this documentary from being aired was, in fact, unconstitutional government censorship.
This ruling created a massive, seismic shift in legal thinking. The Supreme Court established a historically unprecedented rule. Corporations and unions had the exact same free speech rights to spend money in elections as private individuals do. Essentially, the highest court in the land declared that any restriction on independent political spending is a direct violation of the First Amendment.
Section 4. The Super PAC Era. Following the logic of Citizens United, lower courts immediately took the very next step. They ruled that as long as a political group does not coordinate directly with an official candidate's campaign, there can be absolutely no limits on the money they collect and spend. The corruption risk, legally speaking, was suddenly deemed zero. This legal shift birthed an entirely new entity, the Super PAC. It's a political action committee that doesn't give money to candidates, but instead acts as a massive, unlimited spending pipe for political influence. You can't give $1 million directly to a politician, sure, but you can absolutely give $1 million to a Super PAC that supports them.
So, how do wealthy donors solve the transparency problem? Because even super PACs have to disclose their donors, right? Well, a donor who wants to remain totally hidden can just execute this 4-step process. It's like a recipe. Step 1, you have the wealthy individual. Step 2, they give unlimited funds to a middleman nonprofit corporation. Step 3, that nonprofit gives the money to a super PAC. And step 4, the super PAC buys the ads. On the public paperwork, the only name that actually shows up is the vague middleman nonprofit. The original donor's name remains completely hidden inside an opaque pipe.
So, who is actually using these pipes today? When Citizens United passed, everybody thought traditional corporations like Walmart or ExxonMobil would just buy the elections outright. But the data shows something totally different. The biggest players in this new era are ultra-wealthy individuals. Get this, in 2024, just 2 men, Elon Musk and Timothy Mellon, outspent all traditional corporate donations combined. While some corporate sectors, like crypto companies, definitely do participate heavily, it's the billionaires who are the primary force driving this modern spending machine.
Section 5. The Illusion of Apathy.
Okay, let's dive into the why. Why pour hundreds of millions of dollars into an election? Well, the source material makes a really compelling case that this massive independent spending frequently translates into significant political access and policy influence. The system essentially creates an environment where massive investment strongly aligns with favorable government action. The source data points to several specific instances of this. For example, a wealthy couple invested $8 million in super PACs for a specific senator, and a year later, a new tax loophole saved them $40 million. Across different administrations, major donors are frequently awarded prestigious ambassadorships. We saw venture capitalist Peter Thiel drop $10 million into a super PAC to elevate a relatively unknown J.D. Vance, who is now vice president. And we saw Elon Musk, after a record-breaking $290 million investment in the 2024 election cycle, immediately granted tremendous access to oversee government efficiency. You might not be able to literally buy an election directly, but the spending absolutely shapes the government's agenda. And all of this brings us to a really fascinating piece of data. Despite living in an incredibly divided political climate right now, where people seem to disagree on almost everything, there is a striking bipartisan consensus on this one issue. 72% of Americans, all across the political spectrum, believe there should be limits on campaign spending. Almost everyone agrees the current unlimited system is deeply flawed.
So the absolutely crucial point we need to land on is this. If 72% of people want change, why doesn't it happen? Well, the complex jargon of campaign finance, super PACs, revocable trusts, independent expenditures is inherently dry. It is literally designed to make our eyes glaze over. But as our explainer today reveals, billions of dollars of hidden influence entirely rely on you turning away. The ultimate question we have to ask ourselves going forward is, will we continue to let public boredom protect a system that the vast majority of Americans desperately want to change? Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep asking the right questions.